Hello, how's it guys going? All right, right now, for today's lecture, we're going to be continuing along with the theme of uh, human body systems, and we're going to talk about the digestive system. Hang on. There we go. Okay, so we're going to talk about the digestive system as we kind of basically mentioned it last time we talked with reference. It was kind of part of the what we were talking about with the interaction of the cardiovascular system, the circulatory system, the respiratory system, and to a certain amount, the digestive system all kind of interwork together. And so that's what we're going to continue with that by breaking down what happens in the digestive system today. Okay. Purpose of the digestive system is obviously to break down food, and just right off the bat, uh, digestion starts from the moment that the individual puts something in their mouth. And we're going to talk about, all of the actions that take place with reference to, from the first time you put something in your mouth all the way down to what's left of what you put in your body is excreted as waste. But first thing is you got to take in food, and as we talked about when we were discussing uh, um, the cellular respiration, the main thing that the body uses for its fuel is glucose, which is broken down into ATP. So this is because animals don't make their own food. The food that they intake has to be broken down into nutrients that the body can use. Okay, and once again, the food you intake is definitely the fuel for your body. Also, you see, just real quick, those Granny Smith apples, which are my favorite. One of the things that they've done a study, just kind of like trivia, since that was showing the apples. If you want to wake up, instead of drinking a cup of coffee, if you eat an apple, especially a Granny Smith apple, it'll have the same effect of waking you up. Okay, the parts of the digestive system, and what you have to know from the opening of your mouth all the way down until it's excreted through uh, your anus. Uh, the whole thing is called the alimentary canal. And it starts with the mouth, but the major players in the mouth: esophagus, your stomach, small intestine, which is first, large intestine, and then also the liver, the gallbladder, and the pancreas. So I'm going to talk about how all these are involved with digestion. But first, we're going to define exactly what digestion is. It's a process that changes food into a usable form. Okay, when they say nutrients, specifically the if you had to put it into like the corner of the realm, so to speak, of what your body needs is glucose, especially your brain, but everything you needs glucose, can't live without it. During digestion, food is broken down very small materials. That's why my mom always got on me about chewing your food. It's very important to chew your food into smaller pieces, as small as pieces as possible. um, just helps with your digestion, especially if you eat meat. Okay, especially beef. You gotta. Plus, it'll keep you from choking. Okay, your body breaks down food in a couple ways. Mechanically, okay, obviously involves tearing and crushing and mashing the food. Now, as evolution occurred and primitive man discovered more things like fire. Okay, you stop needing things like your wisdom teeth. Originally, wisdom teeth was meant for tearing raw meat. Okay, because they didn't have fire, they couldn't cook it. So raw meat was actually tough, so it was meant for that. But they call chewing is mastication. That's what they call it, and it's breaking down the food and adding a few things to it, and we'll talk about that when we talk about chemical digestion. When chemicals cause enzymes break down food and nutrients. Now, we used to do when we were in the classroom, and maybe we might do this when we go back, hopefully soon, is that if you take a cracker and put it on your tongue and hold it there, don't chew it. You have something in your mouth we're going to talk about in a minute called saliva, which is actually an enzyme called salivary amylase, and it breaks down food and it starches, and it actually will turn starch like into sugar. So if you hold a cracker on your tongue for about 2 minutes, it'll actually start to taste sweet because it will have been broken down. Okay, and like I was saying, your mouth, your teeth, your incisors, your molars, everything. Incisors tear, and your molars and your crush, canines tear as well. And your the saliva or salivary amylase, it breaks down starches into simple sugars. So what this is telling you is that the digestion process actually starts in the mouth, okay? And then the tongue pushes the food that was now called a bolus, which is just, kind of named, normally the food's like in a ball, and it goes down the esophagus. And the esophagus is a tube that's coated with mucus, and it has smooth muscle, okay? And the smooth muscle kind of pushes it down toward the stomach, okay? So if you had to describe the journey that food goes on, it'd be like they say, the mouth, the esophagus is pushed down to the stomach, the small intestine, large intestine, rectum, and anus. Now, one of the things they're leaving out is that you actually have two rings that are called sphincters. One is between at the end of the esophagus, right as you go into the stomach. The other one is at the bottom of the stomach as you go into the small intestine. And these are just rings that basically keep the digestive fluids from going back up into the esophagus, because that's what heartburn is. The acids in the stomach is so very strong that if it in times when, and this is what people call heartburn, or when you get sick, in times when it goes back up in the esophagus, it actually burns it. Also during times when people eruptate, which is when they throw food back up, that's one of the reasons that you get it's such a horrible sensation, because you get some of that stomach fluid and everything comes up and it burns your throat. It's bad. Okay, but just remember the process of kind of pushing food down and stuff like that involves, in terms of the esophagus, involves smooth muscle control, and it's the name for it is peristalsis. Stomach. Okay, when you eat a big meal or eat a spicy meal, you'll sometimes you can feel your stomach gurgling or churning, and that's just the mixing of the food with digestive juices and enzymes and acid. The acid in the stomach would probably eat through your desk. Okay, very strong acid. And that's why it's bad, like in situations, maybe in a war situation, if somebody's ever shot in the stomach, it's bad, because that acid spills out and starts to burn and basically dissolve your other organs and stuff. The small intestine, partly digested food moves into the stomach and small intestine. There's some types of food that are actually only digested in the small intestine. When I was younger, I grew up in Texas. I used to love jalapeno peppers. Okay. And they're digested in the small intestine. By the way, jalapenos are a great source of vitamin C, but they're digested in the small intestine. And as you get older, that becomes a problem, and it actually can cause you to have lower gastrointestinal problems, issues, to the point where a lot of people kind of I've stopped eating jalapenos maybe every once in a while. The large intestine, that's materials that cannot be absorbed, pass into the large intestine. The large intestine absorbs water and stores waste until it can be eliminated from the body. And one of the interesting things is, I know everybody has heard the term diarrhea, and people think that people think that diarrhea is like too much water because what's coming out is water. It's actually the opposite. It's not enough water. It's not enough water, and a lot of times when you drink water, it enables the stool or whatever, the waste to get more solid. Okay, it's funny how things kind of work opposite. The rectum and the anus is the kind of the end of the line. Is where the solid waste or feces is eliminated. Nutrients, that's any substance that's found in the body that's useful. Okay, and once again, everything is broken down to the almighty glucose. Okay, and that's what the glucose is what you use, what your cells uptake to basically feed the process of cell respiration, which indeed creates ATP, which is the only, you guys should know at this point, that's the only substance that cell can use for energy. Okay, how do nutrients move from the small intestine in the body cells? Small intestine is lined with these little finger-like bumps called villi, which is kind of creepy looking, but they're designed to transport nutrients because it means there are more places for nutrients to be absorbed into the blood. Now, this really comes into play with certain. There are certain supplements that people take, especially people who have anemia, and the point of absorption of this whatever the supplements they take is important. There's certain there are different types of iron pills that you can take, and the iron pills that are absorbed in the small intestine, you know, tend to be more palatable and better for the individual taking them, and cause less problems than if the iron is actually absorbed in another place. The villi are full of capillaries. We talked about capillaries. Those are little small microscopic blood vessels that they're the same type that surround the small sacs that are in the lungs, and these capillaries obviously move nutrients through the thin walls. Circulatory system. Okay, so this is how the digestive system works hand in hand with the circulatory system, because once the digestive system breaks down the nutrients and everything, then it's basically transported by the information superhighway, which is the bloodstream. Okay, and it takes the nutrients digested and passes into the blood through the thin walls of the villi. Okay, and once again, it transports it throughout the body by the bloodstream. What does the stomach, liver, and pancreas have in common? They each can secrete chemicals that break down food. Okay, specifically the pancreas it produces insulin. Okay, and the way it stands is that, and this is like basically the key takeaway in terms of how diabetes happens, is that it secretes insulin, and insulin is the only way that glucose can be taken into the cells. So you can have a bloodstream full of glucose, okay, full of glucose, but if you don't have enough insulin, then the cells won't be able to uptake enough nutrients. And if it gets really bad, what is really critical is the cells in your brain. Your brain has to have nutrients and stuff like that. And so, and if you're in a situation the brain's not getting enough nutrients, not getting enough glucose, that can be bad, cause problems, like diabetic seizures and all that kind of stuff. Okay, the liver produces bile, which breaks down fat. So the fats that you intake is broken down by the liver. The gallbladder stores bile produced by the liver and releases it into the small intestine when it is needed. Pancreas produces enzymes that flow into the small intestine. These enzymes are mixed with food as it enters the small intestine. Okay, the most specific thing, like I said, that the pancreas secretes is insulin. Okay, that's the big deal. And if in a situation where it doesn't produce enough insulin or whatever, then that's what causes diabetes when you have to have it. And basically, the bad thing is like you have to have it. You have to have insulin right after you eat, so the cells can uptake the food. So that's why people have to take shots, sometimes 3 a day. All right, this is what I was talking about, peristalsis. It's just like the muscles squeezing things downward. Okay, so like when you swallow something, and it works pretty well because the tube or the esophagus is coated with mucus, so it's already slippery, and then the muscles go hand in hand with squeezing the bolus or the food in a downward motion. Okay, these are just I'm not gonna read all this stuff to you, but I have it in the slides for you. This basically chronicles what we've been talking about, the mechanical and chemical processes that are involved with digestion. And that's pretty much, I'm trying not to talk very long, but that's pretty much uh, I pretty much have on digestion for today. Okay. And I'm sure if you guys have any questions, you will ask me.